Good evening and welcome to episode 12 of the Unhinged Dads podcast. I am Brian De Almeida. With me is my regular co-host, Dave Pasco.
Hello, hello.
So, Dave,
So,
everybody
Brian,
had strep last week.
yes,
How are you
everybody
doing?
has strep week. I'm still trying to find like 3 or 4 more hours in every day, and I swear I won't use that for like video games or drinking heavily or anything, productive like that. I'll actually sleep during that time, but I'm exhausted.
What, what,
Uh,
what about making Robbie a little baby brother?
I mean, yeah, I'm not ruling anything out. The
You're a brave
you
man.
know the whole week with dealing with strep and the antibiotic course has run through that. At least I hope it has. Um, we spent that
Yeah.
week working on the house. There's a new AC unit installed. We've been painting and doing some wiring things. We need to get I got a count of receptacles today. Um, and then we spent several hours over the last couple of weeks working through the um, kitchen cabinet ordering setup. The there's a lot of options out there, and I think a lot of them are both trendy and potentially useful. But I have a feeling most people
hmm
wouldn't. Um,
Yeah. Hey, Dave, do me a favor.
do it.
Go and reduce your video resolution to 720p. The little arrow next to the stop video.
Oh, bitchin'.
Because we're
Good
getting
times.
about
How's that look?
one frame every 3 seconds right now. That's a little bit better. Go ahead and drop it down to 480p. We can just preemptively thank the Air Force and their tech support monkeys for Dave's wonky internet connection, which made last
Yeah,
episode a ton of work to edit. But we made it work, and because by God, I was not just going to let that recording die
yeah.
with Ian's stories.
Ian tells Ian tells too good of stories to let that disintegrate into the ether.
Yeah, but unfortunately, audio quality was not fantastic. But
Mm.
welcome to government tech support. It
You
should
know,
get it should be much better once you guys are in the house and have a commercial internet connection.
we have taken many steps closer to that. We had a plumber in yesterday to look at things and kind of shake his head and wonder aloud why certain choices were made at certain points in the past, which is pretty much par for the course at this point.
Yeah, that's me going through anything in my house.
I have learned so much through this process. So many things that I suspected and didn't want to learn. So many other things that I had no clue about and still was forced to reckon with.
Yep. Okay. Well, let's hit our questions 3.
Yeah, let's do that.
What have we done for self improvement this week?
Oh, God bless. What have we done for self improvement? Done a lot of stuff for the house for self improvement. Um, I have been a good monkey and been taking my new medication for anxiety and potentially depression
Uh huh.
um, at the appropriate times. That's
Was that
in
making you
theory.
extra tired?
No, because
That's good.
like my mother, I'm going to be taking this in the evening so that the wave of somnolence carries me off to sleep, at
Oh,
least in theory.
we can hope.
Yeah.
See, for me this week, well, I think I recently mentioned that realized that my youngest son does not want the same things that I did because he's an extrovert and he wants to be doing stuff all the
Right.
time. And so I've been trying to be more intentional about, just dragging him into things and having him participate. And I also realized that I need to change my mindset a little bit on all three of my boys because
Mm,
when we got married 6 years ago, our daughters are a total 24 months age gap for the three of them.
right. They are
You know,
pretty close.
they were 12, 10, and 10, and then my boys were 8, 6, and 4 at the time.
Right.
So the girls were in junior high, and now one has graduated high school. The other two are about to close out their junior year. So we've kind of had this. The girls are adolescents. The boys are children.
Hmm.
My boys are 11, 13, and 15. They aren't
Yeah.
really children anymore. I mean, my youngest is still in elementary school.
Yeah, but he's at that age where it's one group at one moment, and the next he's moving and talking and walking like he's an adult. And
Yeah,
anyway,
and
I'll get
he's
to
and
that
he and
later.
he's also the youngest kid in with five older siblings. So
Hmm.
he's been exposed. He understands all of their dirty jokes, unfortunately.
Oh yeah,
So in some ways he's a little beyond a normal 11-year-old in some of the things he's interested in. And
sure.
so I've been trying to make sure that I'm reassessing some of those internal assumptions and how I deal with them, how I interact with them,
Yeah,
because they aren't little kids anymore.
yeah,
We need to, there's more things that I can include them in. There's more things that they have a tolerance for.
yep.
So like Friday, I was like, "Hey boys, we're doing a movie night. Let's go down." Because I built a sort of theater in the basement, and I said we're going to. I gave them three choices. They chose to watch Gone in 60 Seconds,
Okay.
the remake, not the original. So Nick
Right.
Cage and a blonde, dreadlocked Angelina Jolie.
You know, I really appreciated Chris Eccleston as the bad guy in that one.
He'd played it well. I
Yeah.
don't I don't love the characterization of the carpenter and woodworking enthusiast as being the evil bad guy.
Ah, yeah, that's fair. I
But
mean, in his defense, it's not like most villains even get a hobby. So
that's true. So yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to make sure that I'm introducing them to movies from the 90s because we go back much farther than that, and the lead up to anything interesting takes too long.
yeah, 80s
But
pacing was a little weird at times.
and the farther back you go, the more the kind of the slower the pacing is, and it just
Mhm.
loses their interest. Eventually we'll get to the point that we're watching Lawrence of Arabia or Casablanca, but
There you
right
go.
now it's vroom vroom and explosions, and I'm cool with that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, my thing has been trying to be conscious and be aware of the fact that my boys are older, and I need to adjust the paradigm in my head for them actually being adolescents and not being little children anymore.
Yeah,
So,
that's legit.
what's something you did poorly this week?
Um, I am having. Speaking of children hitting the age where they're becoming more assertive in themselves. My oldest is
Testosterone.
yeah. My oldest is trying to assert his himself, and it's occasionally, mostly, poorly aimed. And so I am having personally, I'm having some trouble adjusting to that. Um, so I there have been a number of times where there is a moment of the vein in the forehead that starts to throb visibly.
Yeah, and the
At
thought crosses your head that I would really find it satisfying to smack you right now,
Yeah,
but we're not going to do that.
no, 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 because as with for many years, my children have not only been the smallest children in their class, but the smallest children in the class below them as well.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not saying my son is slight necessarily, but he is not going to be mistaken for anything other than a child for a while yet.
yeah, he's not imposing.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll see what happens 3 years from now, but
look, if he gets his my father-in-law's height and my build, he'll be genuinely scary.
yeah,
He'll
it'll be
he'll
interesting to
be
see.
yeah. On the other hand, odds are very good that we're just going to be a family of dwarves, and that just means that once I get the smithy set up, I will be making everybody axes.
I'm not seeing a negative here.
No, see, it's great. It's a good plan. So
I
yeah,
mean,
the
we could
dealing with emotional outbursts of a preteen is very wearing.
it is. And it doesn't get less so just because you've done it 4 times before.
Yeah, yeah. It at that point it's just exhausting. But since it started out that way, there you go.
Yeah, my experience has been that from about 13 to 15, I really don't like them very much.
Yeah, I
And
remember. I
that's
remember
the
what
honest
my
to God truth.
little sister was like when she turned 13, and it was a blessing that she spent so much time at her best friend's house
Uh huh.
because it was literally about 3 blocks away, and that was simple.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, I love my kids. There are moments that I don't like them. When they're 13, 14 years old, there's
Oh,
a lot of
absolutely.
moments that I'm not a huge fan.
We tell our children that we will always love them, but that liking is ephemeral and transitory, and that's okay.
Yes. What matters is that you show up and you do the job,
Yeah,
and you don't let your own emotional dysregulation have a massive impact on them.
yeah.
Self discipline. Um,
Weird.
yeah. For what I did poorly this week, I'm honestly kind of pulling a blank. I don't think I really screwed up anything. At least
Nothing stands out.
nothing stands out, which is really weird to say because I know there has to be a laundry list of things.
You know, self-reporting is often considered a very poor methodology for gathering data for a
Yeah,
reason.
I think the worst that I pulled off this week was letting my irritation show as I was getting after teenage girls to,
Mm,
do the damn dishes on the nights you're assigned to. They haven't changed in a year and a half.
right.
You know that on Tuesday and Thursday it's your responsibility to do the dishes. I should not be reminding you when you get home from the gym at 10 p.m.,
Right.
which I don't love, but I also love the fact that she's in the gym like 5 days a week.
That's a good thing.
It
That's a
is
very
just, leaving just before dinner time and coming back at 10 o'clock and then voraciously eating all the leftovers and sometimes doing the dishes can be a tad irritating.
yeah.
So there's nothing like me coming offline from recording a podcast to, oh, I need to do all the dishes.
Yeah.
Or coming from a couple hours of editing stuff together and doing and scheduling out the daily posts, and I'm ready for bed, and no, I need to do dishes and clean off the counter, or else I'm going to be pissed off in the morning when I go to make breakfast and nothing is ready. So,
Right.
so yeah, I'm yeah, it's the struggle of keeping your cool when your kids are being assholes.
You know, I have enough trouble doing it when I'm the one being the asshole.
Yep. So what's something that you did well?
God bless. What did we do well? What did I do well? I'm sure there was something. Um,
Um, you worked through being sick and
did
everybody being sick.
Yeah, we
Still got a
survived
lot of
that. That
shit
was pretty
done.
good. We've been doing. We have gotten a ton of stuff done on the house, and coordinating a lot of communication pieces that I realize that communication is difficult, but it's one of those things that my wife and I have worked on for our entire relationship. And
Yeah.
so when other people, especially in a like a business setting, are not apparently trying to communicate with the people that ostensibly they want to give money to, it is a little weird to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
But hey, you work through being sick, you get stuff done.
Yeah.
That's a win as far as I'm concerned. Oh,
Well.
I'm gonna say, speaking of, the last 2 weeks I've said, hey, my oldest son, we finally got him on track with his homework. Um, Actually, this is something I did well,
Hmm.
because I did not lose my entire shit even a little bit. But it turns out that most of his homework submissions on Canvas were a
Yeah.
blank sheet with a single letter on them, so that it would show as having been submitted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was that I was patting myself on the back. Hey, we finally figured this out, and
Nope.
the kids going through almost as much effort to avoid doing it as it would just take
Oh,
to fucking do it.
every time, every damn time. Like that's the entirety of my growing up, and then watching my children when every time they're asked to do something, and it is they spend more effort avoiding the work than they would just doing it.
Uh huh. But yeah, my wife showed me that, and I had about 15 seconds. I'm gonna kill that little bastard,
Yeah, fair.
and then it was, no. Okay, we need to increase the checking here, and not just submitted, but actually view the submission.
Yes. Yeah, and tracking that stuff is not fun, and checking up on them is not fun.
And Canvas is such a piece of shit of software.
There you go.
And every teacher sets up their courses differently, so you can't even go to the daily summary of assignments, because 3 of his 8 courses, the assignments are buried in the individual modules for each class. There is no way to look up just the assignments. You have to dig through every module for every week and see the assignments there.
That's incredibly obnoxious.
Yeah, I mean, like, if everybody knew how to use it, and knew how to utilize everything, to where you could just open up the calendar on Canvas and see all the assignments that are due on
Hmm.
what day, that would be fantastic. But no, you have to go digging through several of the courses to find everything. So sometimes he's not even aware that something was assigned. because
Yeah.
it's buried three menu levels down in Canvas.
Hmm.
And then there's the fact that by and large they've gone to ebooks for textbooks, which are a horrible format for textbooks. There are no physical textbooks. That's a whole
Wow.
different rant.
How much are they overpaying for those textbooks? You might actually look into accommodations for various neurospiciness. They may be obligated to provide a physical textbook in certain cases.
They may be. That would be something. That would be something to look at on the IEP or 504. Yeah, on the IEP. But
Yeah.
dude, I was just like, this is ridiculous. Because I love ebooks for my casual reading.
Hmm.
For any kind of reference material, they are the worst.
Yeah. I have a number of things that the one thing I actually kind of appreciate them for is cookbooks. Aren't too
I can
bad.
see it for cookbooks. But some of these, it's not even an ebook. It's just a 700-page PDF.
That's offensive
Oh,
on a very deep level,
yes.
because that says that they don't care enough to make sure that their students can search something.
Hmm. It's a
If I
PDF that doesn't even have functional hyperlinks in the table of contents or the index.
That's not that
So
hard to put
you
in.
literally just guess the page number or sit there and scroll wheel to get to the chapter.
Yeah, which means that most of their students are not doing that.
Yeah, and they're
Guarantee it.
and they're using Chromebooks.
Mm.
So they're supposed to be doing an assignment while while referring to the textbook on a single 15-inch screen.
Yeah, one of the
I hate it.
conspiracy theories I subscribe to is that uh, computers have been made more confusing and difficult to use on purpose in order to make people stupid and uneducated.
Um, I can't disagree with you. The other conspiracy theory there that I'll pick up is that the vast majority of books that they assign children to read are the driest, shittiest books possible to make them hate reading.
Yeah, if you can make somebody hate reading, then they're never going to learn to search out things for themselves, and they're
Mhm.
then never going to discover things like history or philosophy.
Yeah, they're limited to what is spoon fed to them and what they happen to pay attention to in school and whatever is spoon fed to them on TikTok.
Yeah,
But
just another reason we're not on TikTok.
yes. So I titled this episode Futurism and the Ultimate Goal, which we've talked about the ultimate goal before.
Yes.
I state it as my entire goal for my children is for them to grow up into happy, healthy, independent adults.
Yep.
It is not for them to be obedient children. It
Nope.
is not for them to validate, my feelings and my wants. It is not for them to be, it is not for them to be something that I can show off to everybody, although I do.
Sure.
My kids are pretty awesome.
There.
But the real goal is that I am trying to help them grow into functional, capable, and hopefully happy adults.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people get so wrapped up in the day to day, or and a lot of people get wrapped up in the dysfunctional family dynamics of your children are your showpieces, or your children exist to validate you.
Yep. Or fulfill the dreams that you didn't. That's
Yeah.
a good one.
Hmm. I see a lot of that. So people get wrapped up in their own dysfunction, in their own issues that they haven't dealt with properly, and they lose sight of the goal. And in many cases, I think that they end up doing their kids a great disservice as adults by not having that ultimate goal in mind. Because what use is an obedient child who can't function on their own when they're an adult?
Yeah.
Because they don't have anybody telling them what to do every second of the day.
Yep. Well, and the getting the kids to understand that they are allowed to question us.
Oh, hell
But
yes.
that the learning how to do that and when to do that appropriately is occasionally a little rocky.
Hmm. They tend to be pretty good at picking the wrong time to question.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like,
Um,
hey, this is on fire. Get away from there now. But why? It's just a little fire. No, this is one of those times where you just do what I say and we'll talk about it later.
right. Yeah. One of the things that we have been hoping that they pick up, in the sense of we've probably only said it about 80 times, and
Per
we need
day.
to say it somewhere closer to a standard deviation more, is we want you to obey and then ask why.
Yeah, that's valid.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you have a question, why are we doing this, or why do we do this way? If this doesn't make sense to you,
Yeah.
yes, at the appropriate time, let's talk about it. And
Yep.
sometimes we will change our minds. We actually did that this week for Christmas. My boys got a Switch 2,
Mm.
and one of them was playing using mom's account. She gets a notification that he's downloaded Fortnite. Fortnite we have said no to because the game environment is such a shithole.
Yeah.
And my wife working in kids mental health, one of the commonalities she sees among kids who are really struggling is they play a lot of Fortnite. Now, don't know if that's correlation or causation, but
Yeah.
just knowing that it is mostly infested by 13-year-olds who just learned how to say fuck and and have been very poorly socialized.
Hmm.
Because I mean, God, 13-year-olds are we're in elementary school, your prime learning how to socialize with peers when they shut down schools for 2 years.
Yes.
It's bad.
Oh,
And
it's very bad.
so she was like, no. And I was at home, she was at work. She asked me, "Hey, who's playing on the Switch right now?" And I went and I looked. I said, "Nobody." But one of the children is sitting on the couch, very studiously doing nothing, while the Switch is sitting on the opposite end of the couch from him. I'm pretty sure he was just on it. So she calls him and says, "Hey, did you download Fortnite?" No.
Mm.
Huh. So she says, "I'm going to talk with him when I get home." And I said, "Okay, cool. I've got other stuff to do. You can deal with that." And by the time she got home, that kid was such a wreck because he was expecting to be in big trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Mom came through the door and he's crying. And so she was like, "Okay, well, I told you no. So you went and got on my account that didn't have it blocked, and you downloaded it
Hmm.
and you lied about it. And none of that's okay, but I understand why. Because he has friends who play it. He wants to play with his
Sure.
friends."
Yep.
And so she said, "Well, let me explain to you why I have concerns about that game in particular." And and they went back and forth, and that caused her to go looking more into the parental controls available, which actually Fortnite has some really robust parental controls can be put in place. You can block them from participating in chats or voice chats with anybody who is not a friend. You can
Wow.
block people from sending them friend requests in game. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And so after discussing it, Fortnite was allowed with some pretty strong guardrails in place and some time limitations.
Oh
And
yeah.
and that ended up turning into a broader conversation about games because one of the older brothers says that game's brain rot. All he wants to play are brain rot. And so then kids like, well, what's brain rot, mom?
Mm.
So they looked that up, and the definition of brain rot that they came to as it applies to games are games that are low effort and low challenge.
Yeah.
That are just ways to hijack and hit that dopamine lever over and over and over. Like pretty much every mobile game in existence.
Yeah. All the idle games are bad.
Yeah, they're brain rot. And he was like, but I like some of those. So there was discussion, and there was an agreed upon like 30 minutes per day that you can do low effort, low challenge games. But if you're going to play games, we would like for you to play games that have a decent story and present a challenge to you, as opposed to just power click this repeatedly to get
Right.
coins. So that ended up being very productive and resulted in some adjustments and how we were handling that. And the kid understands better, and is not going to go around behind our backs to try to play the game. We're just like, no, that game's brain rot. The hell's wrong with you? Why would you play that?
Yeah.
And that's the goal, is to help the kid learn, not just to control them because Fortnite's brain rot.
Right. Whether it is or not.
Yeah, which completely appropriate. The kid would be like, well, what does that mean? Why is that brain rot when something else isn't? Okay,
Right.
let's work to understand together.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's the long-term perspective on your actual goal as parenting. What are you raising the child to be? Do you want them to be obedient today? That's easy. You can just scare the shit out of them by
Oh, true.
pulling your top every time
Yeah.
they do something that you don't like. My dad was really good at that, and that
Yeah.
was one, go
As I
ahead.
recall, you have siblings who are still basically living by his blueprints for their lives.
Yeah, I don't really talk to most of them very much anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that was one of those things I realized early on, because one of the things that really stands out growing up, my dad would call when he was leaving work. He was about a 30 to 40 minute commute away, and based on how he sounded, which if it sounded like he'd had a bad day at work,
Mm.
mom called all of us up, said, "Hey, go through the entire house, pick up everything, put away anything that is out of place." We do that whole flight of the bumblebees, run around, make sure that there's nothing that he can use as an excuse to vent his ire at us. And then when
Mm.
he got home, we scattered,
Wow.
because whoever was responsible for something being left out, whoever looked at him wrong, whoever said something that he interpreted as disrespectful, got the full unloading of, I had a shitty day at work. And
Yeah.
the result there is everybody was afraid of him. And he would say to do something, and you do it, because if he didn't, he would lose his shit, and he'd be in your face screaming at minimum. And so there was a lot of motivation by fear, which does not instill good habits, and meant that as an adult, I had a lot of things to unlearn. And I realized pretty early on that I never again wanted my daughter to look at me in fear.
Yeah.
And that was, that was the wake up call for me. I see here a lot of people talking about when they found out they're going to be a dad, like their life changed. That wasn't the case for me. I'm the oldest of five kids.
Hmm.
I grew up in a very, very Mormon household where you're just expected. You get married, you have kids. It was never really a question of, am I going to have kids? Because that was weird.
Yeah.
But, I was changing diapers and taking care of babies at 5 and 6 years old. And as my aunts and uncles who were younger than my parents had kids, I took care of babies. I babysat for people in the neighborhood before I could work. I took care of kids all the time. So that was, just kind of a natural progression. But, one day, I'd had a shitty day and I yelled at my kid and she was obviously scared of me. And I went, oh, holy shit.
Mm.
And that was where I am not doing this.
Yeah.
If I can get nothing else right, my kids will not be afraid of me.
Yeah.
And it's taken a lot of work. And I've sure as hell have tripped along the way many, many times. And today, if I'm being honest with myself, I can say that I'm a fairly decent father. I wasn't always, and God knows I've made mistakes, and I'm trying to make up for some of those today.
Fair.
But that's learn. That's part of that was learning the long view of, okay, what is my job really as a dad? Is it just to make
Hmm.
sure they're fed and clothed until they're 18? I can kick their asses out. I mean, that's how some
Yeah.
people approach it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, we have friends who left home before 18 because that was clearly how that was being approached.
Yeah. So the ultimate goal: happy, healthy, independent adults. And that brings us to our duty to guide them as they try to prepare for that independent life.
Oh yeah.
And from when we were kids to now, I think things have changed a lot. I mean, because the only thing I ever heard all through growing up and going to school is if you wanted to make something of yourself, you needed a college degree.
Yes.
And to some degree, that was accurate because it became the key to getting past the HR tards at any job who were the first ones to review an application. Oh, you don't have a bachelor's degree. Adios. It gets memory hold.
Hmm.
That is that has been shifting over the last decade or so, and I even saw it, as a person who's hired and fired a lot of people in the corporate world. That finally I was seeing the must have a bachelor's degree as pro forma for just about any job. I had, they were telling me that maintenance tech jobs in a small factory must have a bachelor's degree. And I was like, why?
Yeah. What does what possible degree could prepare them for that?
Mine did pretty well, but
Yeah.
mine was, my degree was industrial management. I called it business management for people who do shit.
Right.
So I actually did learn quite a bit that was useful in my career as a manager and a leader in in blue collar industries.
Sure.
But my maintenance techs, and by the way, the last maintenance tech I hired, I started him at $32 an hour in Salt Lake, which is pretty damn good for a guy who was 3 months out of prison.
Yeah.
But that had been that way for a long time. It has changed.
Hmm.
Used to be if you wanted to get into any kind of programming gig, you had to have a degree in computer science or something similar.
Yeah,
And they've finally realized that degrees good code monkeys do not make.
it's true. You started off as a CS major, and it was very basic. Um, yeah,
I mean, so today, you're looking at your oldest 6 years from now being at that stage of being completed with his high school education and supposed to be ready for college.
yeah.
How hard are you going to push college at him?
We've already said that unless they're after a specific professional degree, a you know uh, doctor, engineer, lawyer, that kind of thing, that they should consider something beyond besides university, which is frustrating because a liberal arts degree is supposed to be a good foundation for anything, and
Yeah,
it
but
has stopped being so.
the gen ed requirements are bullshit.
Oh yeah,
They've been watered down and watered down and watered down
yes,
to the point that significant numbers of people who graduate with bachelor's degrees are still functionally illiterate and incapable of long division, at least reliably.
which is bizarre.
Which God, you go back 150 years.
Oh yeah,
What it took to get to be a high school graduate involved classes in classical philosophy,
Greek,
usually involved learning
Latin.
Greek and or Latin,
Mm-hmm.
advanced English, writing, mathematics. Mathematics had not been pushed quite as far for general population as they have now,
Yeah.
but truly it was a foundation, and it was a foundation meant to teach you how to think,
Yes.
to give you the tools to be able to evaluate things and to be able to incorporate them and separate the wheat from the chaff. And the modern educational industrial complex, my observation is that it is not meant to teach you how to think.
That
It,
does not seem to be the end goal. No.
it seems to be much more focused on telling you what to think.
And convincing you, training you how to look to specific places for that.
Hmm. Yeah.
The amount of social activism I see in the just in the media for high school students who are encouraged to walk out of class to protest something that doesn't affect them is
Hmm.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that's one of those things I look at and I go, if we had done that when I was in high school, we'd have all been slapped with truancy citations, and our parents would
Yeah,
have been called into court.
yeah, and appropriately so.
Yeah, but the social activism is weird to me, and that's after spending most of my adult life as a pretty ardent advocate for a few things.
Sure, but there are ways and there are times to do so, and just walking out on obligation seems untoward.
Yeah, it's kind of contradictory to my nature. You fulfill the needs first,
Hmm.
the wants later, and
Yeah.
so with like I said, with one kid who graduated from high school almost a year ago,
Yep.
and two more who will graduate next year. Of those three, one of them is on a college route, and that's because she wants to go into biomedical engineering.
Yeah, and you kind of need a degree to do that.
You absolutely do for the foundations of for the foundations of engineering. You
Hmm.
do, and people need to understand that a bachelor's degree, hell, even a doctorate degree, means that you now should mean that you now understand the basics of the field. You are not an expert just because you got a 4-year degree.
No.
You now have the base of knowledge to build to be able to build a career on, especially in like
Yes.
engineering.
Yep.
The thing that becomes applicable the farther away you get from that graduation date is what have you actually done.
Hey, what have you done this week?
Yeah, of my other two, I've got the one who's working as a ski instructor,
Yep.
and over the summer she's be working at the same resort teaching tumbling and trampoline acrobatics and mountain biking, while she's looking for a place to do a tattoo apprenticeship,
Right.
because the kid's a insanely talented artist. And she says, well, I would like to go into wildlife conservation, but none of those jobs pay enough to cover a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
I pick up $30,000 or $40,000 in student loans for a job that today pays 60,000 a year. She's like, I can make 60,000 a year doing tattoos for a lot less time.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
and she can spend all the time she wants learning whatever she needs in terms of the wildlife conservation stuff on the side
a lot
and
of
doing
those,
things.
yeah, a lot of those still require a bachelor's degree, which her
Sure.
thought is she will get herself established career wise to the point that she's able to pay semester by semester for her schooling. She's
Hmm.
she says I might take 7 or 8 years to finish up a bachelor's degree. She says, but I'm just going to pay cash per semester. I'm not going to take out any loans.
Good.
And I'm like, she's got a far better plan than I did at 18.
Yeah.
My
I
plan at 18 was to go and enlist and get the hell out of Utah.
dude, I got a degree and then I enlisted. So,
Yeah, why didn't you do OCS?
um,
Out of curiosity.
well, at the beginning, my recruiter pulled some recruiter nonsense and convinced me that the degree that I had in hand was not something that the Navy would look kindly upon for such things. Come to find out, that's complete nonsense. They will, if you are interested, they only care about hard science degrees for something like, well, you want to be a nuclear engineer, you kind of need an engineering degree.
Yeah,
Um,
but
but
that's
for
my recollection especially back in that time. If you had a bachelor's degree, you were basically a shoe-in for OCS, which for anybody listening who doesn't know, it's Officer Candidate School. There's a pretty direct pipeline from finishing college to becoming an officer in the armed forces.
yeah, um,
And
yeah,
generally, they don't care what degree you have, as long as you have it.
yes, yeah, no. And then once I was in the system, I didn't really care to push that hard for one.
Yeah, I can see that. What was your degree in, anyways?
Philosophy,
Hasn't made you
which
much money, has it?
nothing's made me much money.
Fair. Which, let's be clear, that's not the only metric by which you can value an education. But given what it costs, it's kind of an important one.
You should absolutely take into account what it is going to cost you over the long term and understand things like compound interest and how paying or getting deferrals on
Yes.
your student loans, or paying the minimum is going to affect your repayment schedule. It's just like a mortgage, just like a car note,
Just like a credit
just,
card.
just like it's more like a credit card than I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
Um, and that if you don't hustle, you will be paying on that for your entire life.
Yep.
And you are not free when you are in debt,
No, you were
because
not.
the bank or whoever enforces things for the bank can garnish your wages.
They can
They
take damn near
they can
everything.
pretty much take just about everything, and you still can't get rid of things like student loans through bankruptcy.
Yep. Now, I have thoughts on policy there on federal student loans
Oh, sure.
that that ultimately there should be some responsibility for defaults on these schools for peddling degrees that do not pay off.
Agreed.
And I would love to see the university systems open up to um, lower cost options for people wanting to educate themselves without necessarily pursuing a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, because honestly, philosophy, you can study all of that, and you can have the mind bending and enlightening discussions with people without the structure of a university entirely.
If you want to argue philosophy with people, you can find them on X. You're not going you're going to find a lot of other things that you may not
Well,
want to
it's
discuss.
the internet.
But something like Quora actually is a phenomenal place to find discussions of philosophy,
Actually,
because
yes.
the longer form of those questions and answer scenarios attract people who are interested in thinking in those terms.
Yeah.
Substack is also pretty decent.
And there are some subreddits that are fairly decent.
Yeah,
There's a lot that
Reddit.
are awful.
I'm going to have to echo paraphrase Wade Wilson on that, and just Reddit is basically where the devil goes to make potty. He was talking about 4chan, but I actually know channers, and they're pretty decent individuals by and large. They just have a very peculiar subculture.
Yeah, and Reddit. Yeah. Reddit is good in a few small subreddits I've found, but by and large, it's pretty much a cesspool.
Yep.
So, college is not necessary. I mean, in theory, it's a great idea.
Mhm.
Everybody to have the foundations of a true liberal arts education, which is basics of science, of math, philosophy, language,
Yes.
and learning how to think critically. But the university system is not really teaching that.
Not particularly well.
It takes people who decide to who decide to learn how to think for themselves pretty much on their own, and then go and figure that out, or are
Well,
fortunate enough to have parents who encourage it and try to model it and teach them.
and the flip side of that is the access to genuinely world class information um, is unparalleled right now. Uh,
Yes.
YouTube University is effectively how to go about learning just about anything you want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what's your thoughts on trade schools? Because one of the things that we are looking at is in many of the blue collar trades, the average age of people working in those is over 50,
Yes.
and they are
We are going to be
retiring, and there are not many people replacing them.
bring those. Uh, yeah, and I'm gonna echo the fat electrician. I'm not sure that a what is effectively a degree in a trade is going to be as useful as just an apprenticeship, because a trade school you're going to be paying to
Mhm.
learn, whereas an apprenticeship you get paid to learn.
A lot of the trade schools are an on ramp into apprenticeship in many cases, but
Well,
and in some industries, like
mhm.
my industrial management degree was a associates of applied science with with the BS in management for people who actually do shit.
Mhm.
In my case, the trade side was automotive tech. There isn't any kind of apprenticeship program for auto technicians. You show up and be like, "Yeah, I know how to fix cars,"
Right.
and they throw you in the pit and see if you can survive.
Yeah.
But yeah, for I mean, and I have very mixed feelings about the lengthy apprenticeship programs in many things.
Sure.
Because like we're looking at for my oldest right now, Utah is Utah is ironically one of the worst states for requiring professional licensing for everything. But
Yeah.
to legally become a tattoo artist, you have to have I think it's 800 hours total of supervised work, and that has to be signed off. And I've looked at various tattoo shops that have apprenticeship programs. Most
Sure.
of these programs you pay between $3,000 and $8,000. It is a 2 year program. They require most of them require you to work 30 hours a week. For the first year, you are completely unpaid. You are not doing any tattooing. You are doing cleanup, sterilization. You are going and getting food for people. You are sweeping the floors. You're answering the phone. You are being slave labor for a year in order to earn the opportunity to then learn how to tattoo.
That I mean, there's an argument to be made about paying your dues, but I don't think that is a functional or sustainable system.
No, so, going and well, you have to do a year of shitty slave labor because that's what I had to do, and that's how you earn your way into this
Yeah.
industry. Get fucked. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Or we as a generation have been all about breaking boundaries and breaking cycles.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I see consistently among millennial dads online is a lot of us grew up with dads who were a lot more like mine than yours,
Hmm.
who have said this shit ends
Yeah.
with me. My kids will not be afraid of me. My kids will not question, does my dad actually care about me?
Right.
And so, you know what? It's shitty and it sucked, but I'm going to make you do it because I had to. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
And the whole requiring 800 hours, honestly, the only argument I can see for the state's involvement there is for the bloodborne pathogens training and requirements to follow. Because that's
Which
serious.
doesn't. That is serious stuff, but it doesn't take 800 hours to learn that.
No, it doesn't. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if you have the bloodborne pathogens training certificate, and you can and should somebody show up to inspect your workspace and see and make sure that you're actually following those,
Hmm.
that's the only thing that I think the state can have any interest in. The rest of it, if you want to say, well, I like art and so now I tattoo and show people what you've done and try to make a living at it, or you can go and say, well, I spent 2 years studying with this person and this is what I have done.
Right.
Let the market fail them.
Yeah. You should have a portfolio like any artist.
They all do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And if you're terrible, people look at your work and go, I'm not
I'm not going
paying
to pay you.
draw
Yeah.
on me.
Hmm.
And people who suck at it will naturally filter themselves out. And from what I've seen, there are plenty of licensed and professional tattoo artists who are not who are not very talented. And that
Well,
800 hours of training eh, didn't really do much.
yeah,
It made them angry assholes.
that's that's a lot of people though.
Yeah. But that's the thing my daughter's looking at. She's an incredibly gifted artist, and she's been tattooing herself and her friends and me for a while now. And she already has pretty damn good technique. I mean, honestly, most of her work exceeds a lot of what I've seen done professionally. And so we're trying to help her find somebody who will meet her where she's at and say, okay, let's get you your hours
Right.
and let's get you licensed and able to work, as opposed to, well, you're scum until you've done a year of slave labor for me. She's like, I can make $20 an hour right now plus tips doing
Hmm.
what I'm doing. Why am I going to go spend 30 hours a week to work for free for a year?
Right.
Just have the opportunity. Of course, the flip side of that is in Utah, if she's tattooing commercially and gets caught by the Division of Professional Licensing, she is banned for life from obtaining any professional license in the state of Utah. And that translates over to most other states.
That's
It's insane because
that is insane.
she could be 18 years old and and tattooing somebody for $200 and gets caught, banned. 10 years later, she could get a nursing degree and cannot get a nursing license
Yeah.
in the state of Utah and like 42 other states. If you have restrictions on professional licensing from any other state, it's effective in that state too.
Yeah. I have.
I look at cosmetology. Beauty school is a huge thing here in Utah
Yeah.
because it's an acceptable thing. It's an acceptable thing for a lot of girls to do while they're waiting for their missionary to come home so they can get married and start pumping out babies.
There you go.
I mean, culturally speaking, it's a huge thing here.
Right.
These girls pay $30,000 to do 2 years of school to be able to dye and cut hair. Again, my feeling is if you're is if you know the applicable health stuff so that you are not inadvertently communicating diseases and stuff,
Right.
let people let people determine how much training they want to do and let their portfolio speak.
Yeah.
Because there will be places that will do training programs that meet what they think is needed, and if it's good, it succeeds. If it sucks, it fails. As opposed to this whole professional licensing scheme where you have to be a licensed and approved cosmetology school, and then they charge insane amounts of money to release them into a market that is flooded with recently graduated hairstylists.
Right.
And most of them don't make that money back.
No.
Because because salon booth rentals are expensive and it takes one hell of a work ethic to become successful there. Most of them don't. They're still paying that $30,000 school bill.
Yeah.
And most of what they do is they occasionally cut their kids' hair and hair of friends and stuff. That's it. The regulation of so many things seems to be a huge impediment to people taking up that trade.
Yes.
On things like electrical work, I understand it much better because there is a lot to learn. There is a lot of best practices to learn.
Yep.
And the consequences of doing electrical work poorly are lots of people die.
Yes. Yeah. That's not even really that true with plumbing.
Oh, a lot of people end up ankle deep in shit when the plumbers get things wrong.
It's true, and there can be speaking of communicable diseases.
Go on.
It's the same. Just no, just that ankle deep in sewage is not going to be necessarily good for your health. Equally, bad plumbing can destroy a house, but it takes longer than a short sparking of fire.
Afternoon or
Yeah,
an afternoon of really really heavy rain.
yeah. Well, or 3 hours in the middle of the night, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. I have very mixed feelings. There's a lot of things where I can see the professional licensing requirements are fairly rigorous
Hmm.
for at least defensible reasons,
Yeah.
and there's a whole bunch. Like why do you need a license and training from this and training approved by the state to do fake nails?
Right.
Again, if you're following proper precautions for bloodborne pathogens, I can see requiring the food handler's permit, the bloodborne
Yep.
pathogens training,
Yep.
and being subject to inspection like any other businesses for basic health and safety. The regulation, I'm not so sure about, but the upside is that the trade schools, the apprenticeship programs, cost a hell of a lot less than college, and
Hmm.
a lot of them, especially in the very blue collar trades like carpentry, electric, plumbing, hell, even roofing, um, or machining. Honestly, if I could go back, my whole 17-year saga of completing a bachelor's degree, where I was in and out, and I lost semesters due to getting hospitalized with pneumonia during finals week and not understanding how ADA works, and that they actually had to allow me to take the final instead of failing me. I was dumb. I was really dumb. I did not advocate for myself well, and it cost me.
Learning learning how to do that is remarkably difficult.
Yeah.
It's even more difficult when you don't feel like you deserve it.
Mhm. But if I could go back, I I realized that the automotive service industry is a fucking cesspool,
Yeah.
and flat rate work is a con. And somebody seeing this is going to unload on me. That's how good people make their that's how a lot of people who cut corners make a lot of money and screw their customers over too. It applies both ways. I very much dislike the flat rate work system in automotive service, but I would not have done the bachelor's degree. I would have gone over to Salt Lake Community College, and I would have done their um, manual and CNC machining program.
Mm.
That's
Machinists.
machine good machinists with good work
Hmm.
ethics and who take pride in their work can make pretty good money.
Yeah.
If you have leadership skills, you can shift over to the management thereof. I
And
know a lot of people who've built pretty damn good careers on welding and or machining. Although welding is
Mhm.
a ultra concentrated market in Utah and it's super oversaturated. But
Hmm.
elsewhere, there's a lot of market for it.
There's a lot of welding. I know that our local community college offers some welding courses, and they were complaining at one point that the city and the county were coming in, basically poaching their students before they could finish class.
To work
And so,
municipal
yeah,
work
because
municipal jobs.
work municipal jobs. If you can become a pipe layer, if you can learn how to weld ag pipe, um, you're going to be there's so much agricultural work in Texas
Mhm. And then
and
the, and,
frankly
and then
across the
there's the
country.
petroleum industry. There's a lot of industries, and one of the things is that a lot of these blue collar jobs. I mean, some of them can be automated to some degree. They
But
still require knowledgeable people doing inspections and quality sign offs at minimum. A lot of
yeah,
them are still easier to have a person do. But one of the things I'm seeing a lot of talk about, I'm not wholly convinced, is that over the next 20, 30 years, generative AI is going to replace a lot of white collar jobs.
I uh, purely record keeping kind of stuff, like I don't know, HR. I could see going the way of the dodo.
Fuck HR. Actually, my first corporate job out of school, I worked there for 5.5 years. Yeah, I was a facilities manager. I was running about 250,000 square feet of offices between Salt Lake, Denver, and Dallas.
Hmm.
And I was taking on projects for our entire administrative team, all like 12 offices around the country, like almost 2 million square feet pre-COVID. But when my ultimate boss, the head of the administration department, was retiring, they moved the administration and facilities department under human resources, and hired a new VP of human resources who came in
Why?
who came in on her figurative rainbow unicorn, and then promptly hired 15 or so people who were under the age of 25 into various DEI czar managerial and VP roles. And I went, oh shit. And I started looking
Why?
for jobs.
Yep.
I mean, they moved facilities and administration, the one branch of the company that was in charge of all the actual stuff, and put them under HR. I said, I'm out. This is going
Yep.
to go to hell. And 6 months after I had moved, my old boss called me. She says, you would not believe what I dealt with today. And I said, oh, do tell, do tell.
Yes, I'd like to hear this.
So, it was relatively large company working primarily in mortgage insurance industry, and they'd been acquiring other companies and branching out further in mostly residential real estate services. Not doing the actual buying and selling, but all the back end services to realtors and to lenders and stuff.
Sure.
So they didn't have entire buildings. They would rent a floor or two of a large office building. And one of the things I did, I reviewed the leases for every space that we were renting, and most of these leases range from 40 to 140 pages. They are worth millions of dollars per year. There's a lot that goes into a big commercial lease.
Oh yeah.
And so my boss came in to find that somebody in human resources had gone and contracted somebody to install plaques in the lobbies of multiple buildings that we had offices in, acknowledging the native peoples from whom the land upon it which was sitting had been stolen from.
Oh dear.
So this is in the lobbies. This is the common area of the building where every one of
Oh,
those leases specifically prohibit and strictly limit what you can do that is visible from within the common areas of the building. They had
because these
plaques
buildings are
installed.
owned by someone else.
Yes, they had
Yeah.
plaques installed. Often, and most of these buildings, the lobbies were paneled with granite. So they hired somebody to drill holes into granite panels in these building lobbies to put up 2 foot wide signs acknowledging whatever native tribe the land that building sat on had been allegedly stolen from. This was an HR directive that they didn't bother to tell anybody in facilities about. They just found out about it when they came in to work on Monday and are getting calls from their leasing managers going, what the fuck did you people do? Who in the hell
Who
thought,
authorized this?
okay? And they're going, what?
This was not. None of this has crossed our desks.
And if the suggestion had, it would have been pointed out that we have
That's
zero rights to modify anything in the common areas of these buildings.
if we would like to maintain our lease on our offices, we need to not do this kind of thing.
Yeah, well, most of those have punitive clauses in addition to being responsible for any damages caused.
Oh yeah,
It ended up, my understanding is, it ended up costing the company about $2 million in total to not be evicted from their offices where they had a couple hundred people working every day.
that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, you want, yeah, and most of those, if the lessee defaults, they are responsible from anything up to the entire remaining balance of rent for the contract, or at least until the landlord is able to secure a new tenant. And the way that most of those big office buildings go,
yeah,
they're modularly designed. All the interior stuff is 18 gauge steel studs, and
sure.
so when somebody else moves in, the walls get torn out, gets completely reconfigured to for what they need.
Hmm.
You're looking at a 3 to 6 month turnaround in many cases to tear out and then build out the new office. So you're
Wow.
paying in most of these buildings. Our rent was between $100,000 and $400,000 a month. You're looking at
Yeah.
paying rent for 6 months while they demolish and then find a new tenant and get it built out to their specifications.
So you're not just paying millions for the time, but you're also paying for the complete renovation of that space
You're
as
not
well as
paying for the renovation of the space,
oh, you're
but
not?
you are paying the rent for that space for the entire time it takes for it to be done, which normally the landlord ends up eating.
Wow.
Which also means that the landlord and their contractor are not motivated to move very quickly if they don't have a
Yeah.
lessee lined up who has a hard move in date. Yeah,
So
so
it could be even more months than
I
6.
have I have feelings about human resources. And yeah, when they moved facilities and administration under HR, I
So
started looking for jobs that day. So I was like, "Oh, holy shit, no."
so what I'm hearing, Brian, is that if generative AI ends up replacing HR, um,
Generative
then
AI can read a fucking contract.
you're not going to be terribly upset by that notion.
No. And honestly, of the things that generative AI is actually good at,
Mm.
reading and understanding a contract is one of them.
So like compliance work.
There's a lot of compliance work that I could see getting offloaded to that. It still requires somebody to review and verify.
Sure. Okay.
I mean,
So speaking of things that you hate, software as a service, um, but
yes.
but be the group that puts together compliance AI and runs that
That
and make money hand over fist.
I could see that. God, I hate compliance work. So much of my career was compliance work, especially my last gig where I
Everybody
was
hates
doing
compliance.
well, my last gig I did facilities management. I was the maintenance manager for this 150,000 square foot factory that had never had an actual maintenance program. It's had guys who could fix stuff.
Hmm.
And I was the safety manager for a company that had been open since 1957 and had never had a safety program of any kind.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I did some damn good work there. I took them from, oh holy shit, we're going to be shut down if OSHA shows up, to being in full compliance in 7 months. In the 10 months that I worked there, I cut $100,000 out of their workers' comp expenses.
That's pretty good.
I also increased their labor efficiency by 30% by having their fucking machines running and doing planned downtime, working with production planning for when we knew we needed to do regular maintenance and actually
As
building
opposed
a maintenance program.
as opposed to just running flat out until something breaks.
Yeah, and then having people standing around with their thumb up their ass for 6 hours while maintenance tries to figure this out, or 3 days while they're waiting for a part to show up.
Sure. That checks
Did
out.
a lot of that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the
So
compliance
pretty,
compliance side, of
yeah.
hey, we have this. Is this in compliance with safety regs? Grok could do that.
Right. Grok is, or and similar. Is it fair to call them entities yet?
I think so.
Um, Grok and similar entities can be phenomenal tutors.
That's what I'm using Grok for right now with this
Hmm.
podcast. Is
Yeah.
I went, I was curious and I went through to to all the big name Gen AIs and said, hey, give me an overview of what the Unhinged Dads podcast, and was astonished that it spat out almost 2 pages of stuff pretty quickly, but found that Grok was the one that actually picked up on the kind of the vibe that we're trying to put out there. And so I've been using Grok to help me with figuring out how to edit down all of our shorts and clips into something that the algorithm likes better, because it's another thing they're actually really good at is
Yeah.
knowing, understanding what the algorithm wants and what the people who are using YouTube shorts and who are using Instagram actually want and will be successful with them. And
Right.
I'm using that to learn how to do this in a way that's going to garner us more attention than just taking a minute and 15 seconds of us going back and forth with 20 seconds of pauses as we think and dropping that on YouTube for 100 views. I can spend an hour
Yeah.
putting it down, add the text overlays, do some things to change emphasis, and it's getting 1,000 views as opposed to 100. Grok's been
Right.
at that. So there's a lot of applications, a lot of record keeping, and a lot of the really basic accounting and stats analysis I can see getting outsourced.
Yeah.
But stuff that requires a human hand, there's only so much that robots can do. Robots
It's
are
true.
great. Robots are great for repetitive tasks.
Yes.
They are not great for doing things a little differently every time, which is generally what is required in most of the blue collar trades.
Yep.
You're not turning out 100,000 of this widget.
Yeah.
You're doing repairs, or things are built to specification in a lot of cases that are not just easily programmable and repeatable.
Yeah. Well, and anything residential is going to be, because weird thing, humans like their own stuff.
And a
And
lot of them
so
don't know how to do it properly.
that's
The guy
true.
I bought my house from,
Yeah. Yeah. The guy I bought my house from.
and
Um,
the previous 5 people who'd owned it before that.
as far as I can tell, the guy who built the house in the first place knew what he was doing, and everybody thereafter has been questionable.
Squirrely,
You know, squirrely. There seems to have been a lot of, well, this is what we've got to use. Um,
yeah.
it's been a thing.
But yeah, there's a lot of blue collar work I don't see getting automated away anytime soon.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there. I don't think it's going to be a complete apocalypse of white collar work that people are saying it's going to be. But
No.
I do think we are going to see the scope of things that can be turned over to Gen AI will increase over time. Once people
Yeah.
figure out the reliability issues,
Hmm.
because
Well, we're also going to see the people who learn how to leverage AI come out on top very
yep,
quickly,
yeah,
because it does automate a bunch of the repetitive pieces of any task. And there are a bunch of things in most white collar jobs that are very repetitive. And if you can have somebody to do that, my wife spent a couple of days getting a macro out of Gen AI, and then saved probably about 500 man hours of populating files, creating and populating files.
Yeah, and as long as you understand that it is a computer and garbage in, garbage out still applies.
Hmm.
I know
Hmm.
I've read some articles about companies who turned over a whole bunch of bookkeeping and stats analysis to Gen AI and found out that it had been fabricating their a whole bunch of their financials, and they were actually deep in the hole and not
Yeah,
actually making any money like they thought they were. But
that's horrifying.
isn't it?
Yeah,
But like this company laid off 90% of their accounting department, turned it all over to a Gen AI app, and found out 2 quarters later that all the data they'd been basing their decisions on was not in fact accurate.
it was a hallucination.
Yes, and
That's
it does seem that large language models are subject to hallucination.
yeah.
And there's going to be refinement over the time, and the people who learn how to use it and learn how to check it
Hmm.
will come out on top. Like my experience with Grok, it's great at giving me pointers of how to tighten up a video, how to emphasize the perfect comedic moment or the real point.
Yeah.
And then it gives me a suggested title and description. Actually, I'm gonna pull this up here because one of these was hilarious. Because I
Do it.
did um, from last week, Law Dog talking about his dad dealing with the crocodile problem. Throw a backpack
Yeah.
full of gelignite into the river, and it kills everything in half a mile of either side, and no crocodile problem for a year.
Right.
Let's see, I gotta scroll up through here. Oh wait, this went way. Oh, that went way up. Let's see. Yeah, like it gave me as title: Law Dog's dad solved crocodiles with explosives. Law Dog shares how his family handled annual crocodile problems until his dad's solution involved a backpack full of gelignite and a very loud explosion. What's the most insane dad fix you've ever heard? Or back further, I think the first one I
I
did last.
mean, okay.
That one was okay. Oh, here we go. This was talking about their first experience. What the shit? Something fell. I blame my dogs.
Yeah, checks out.
Oh yeah, this one was he talks about his dad, it was about his dad walking by with the coffee cup that's grafted to his hand. His mom lights the fuse
Yes.
on the first bamboo rocket, and he goes, "Huh, Russian design." So
Right.
suggested titles here: Dad's coffee cup was a homemade rocket launcher. Russian design. When mom lights the fuse on Dad's coffee cup, a Russian design.
Yeah.
And what did
That's
it give here? Law Dog shares one of the most unhinged dad stories ever. His father casually walking around with a coffee cup that turned out to be a homemade rocket launcher, complete with bamboo, cartwheels, and a lovely blue flame. What the
I
fuck?
mean, I see where it's getting that, but
But
connecting those pieces together is just a little bug house.
yeah, it's one of those. Okay, it was actually good in helping me figure out how to tighten it down, emphasize the comedic moment there.
Hmm.
But then it's Dad's coffee cup was a homemade rocket launcher.
Don't get me wrong. I'd like to see that.
Well, yeah, but it's like Grok, you did great, and what the shit? You did not understand this. Now,
Clearly,
of course, Grok is a computer program, not a person. But
it's a very
yeah,
very sophisticated computer program,
yeah,
and yet,
good at helping me hit the points needed to trigger the
Mm-hmm.
algorithm, but
Mm-hmm.
actually understanding why the story was funny or what happened.
Humor, humor is tough, man.
Yes.
Humor is genuinely hard to do
But that,
intentionally.
that's gonna be one of the things is that long term is people are going to have to know how to manage this and how to check
Yeah.
for garbage output when it
Yes.
just assembles things together into word salad.
Right.
Like I experimented with it and told it to generate a bio for me for a website, and it was pretty fucked up. However, However, I took the bio that I wrote and I took the bio that you wrote and I fed it
Yeah.
to it and said, "Hey, help me polish this." And with some pretty minor corrections, those are now up on our website because
Oh, nice.
they genuinely read better.
Cool. I'll
Now
check
you're going
that
to go
out.
look and be like,
I
okay,
am.
how did Grok fuck up my bio?
No, that's okay.
But yeah, so understanding the limitations of a large language model and what it's good at and what it's not good at, and understanding how to check for when it's feeding you garbage, like
Yeah.
somehow deciding that Dad's coffee cup, which was just a little flavor to the story because Dad's walking by with his coffee cup that was always in his hand. Suddenly, that became the launcher for the homemade rocket.
Right.
That's garbage output. Not quite sure where the garbage input came from, other than it just not understanding the clip. Futures. Are we headed towards a cyberpunk dystopia?
Oh, we're already in one.
Thank you. Explain
Like
why. Explain your
it's
reasoning, Dave.
we have
Oh,
you we have a ubiquitous
philosophy degree.
online. Yeah, right. We have ubiquitous information sharing, and yet most people use it for entertainment. Um,
I was going to say porn and cat pictures
yeah, I think that
and
qualifies.
being assholes.
You know, we know people who are entertained by that as well.
Yes, we do.
Yes. Um,
I've pretty much grown out of trolling people online. I don't see it as a viable use of my time anymore.
it's if it's not clearly making you money, then it's not really worth doing.
Although we have talked about it's okay to do things for the joy of doing them.
It's true,
There's a balance there.
but if you genuinely enjoy trolling people on the internet, and you can keep it to a healthy amount of time per day.
Where it's not inhibiting your ability to do other things that
Right.
bring you the necessaries to do daily life, like pay
Exactly.
for food
Yes.
or interact with people outside of being a dick to them online.
Right. Yeah. If being a dick online translates to being a dick in person, you might want to stop doing that.
Yeah, you might want to reevaluate.
Yeah. So cyberpunk dystopia. We have ubiquitous information sharing in a virtual space. While we don't have immersive virtual reality yet.
Thank God.
Yeah, yeah. I Okay. Did you ever watch Red Dwarf?
Yes,
Okay.
I've never watched a ton of TV though.
Good.
And now
It
now the only thing I've watched in like the last 5 years was the Grand Tour and Clarkson's Farm. Everything else that I have
worthwhile.
watched is years and years, usually decades old. If I've watched it all,
That's
but I
fair.
really don't.
So
I sit and read books.
in an episode of Red Dwarf that they then becomes a major plot point in the couple of novels, um, which are quite good. I really enjoyed those novels. But
Okay,
yes, um, they encounter the better than life simulation. and it is a virtual reality plug-in shared experience. You plug in, and it is so good that people die from it.
Hmm.
We're not there yet, but I don't think it would take a whole lot.
Yeah, and I'm now reminded of one of the best bits that ever came out of Futurama.
Mm,
The little PSA: "Don't date robots,"
don't date robots. Yes.
which some people will say this is proof that I'm a subpar parent. But when my kids were little, I found children's programming was such shit, like
Oh, it's
so
terrible.
fucking annoying. By
It's
the way,
it's still largely terrible,
it is. My
with
I
a few
know a lot of
exceptions.
people who really really love Bluey. My kids are too old for us to get into it, and that's okay with me. But actually, I got an
Bluey's
invite. I got an invite last week for a Canadian podcast. I'm waiting to hear if they want both of us or one of us at a time or what. They're trying to figure out how they're going to do an interview format right now. But
brilliant.
these guys are a Canadian Dads podcast, and I am going to tell them that Canada owes the world reparations for fucking Caillou.
See, I have heard of this, but I have no idea what it is. I've never come
Oh,
across my actual horizon.
be, be grateful. It is.
I am.
I want to take that. I want to take that bastard's little bowling ball head and drop kick it across the border and into the Barents Sea.
What
Fucking
is
hate
this?
that kid. Caillou is the whiniest little shitbag kid ever, with the most
Oh,
milquetoast, obnoxious parents. And this is quality children's programming. I said, you know what? Fuck this. We're gonna
okay.
watch Futurama.
Yeah, yeah. Seriously, watch Futurama. Like
My kid,
you'll end up
my
having to
my kids
explain a
and
lot of
I,
it, but
my kids and I have watched all of the 10 seasons of Futurama before they re-released again on Hulu last year. Haven't watched
mhm.
haven't watched the new seasons yet, but we've watched all 10 seasons of that multiple times. It was a funny thing when my oldest was like 6 or 7. She was doing the kid thing of jabbering at some adult about getting just the full stream of conscious blah 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 blah. She's telling
Yes.
she's telling this person about how evil Richard Nixon was and how Nixon was such a bad guy, and this person's like, wow, I am so impressed with your daughter's understanding of things. And I'm sitting here going, she's fucking pulling this from a
Yeah.
cartoon made by the creator of Simpsons, because they made Richard Nixon's head the evil president of Earth for about 6 seasons of it.
Yep.
Like, this is entirely coming from a cartoon.
That
And you're
says
not smart enough to pick up that she has no understanding who Richard Nixon is, other than in Futurama, he's the president of Earth.
yeah. That's something else. I was gonna say that says a lot more about them than it does about her understanding of Nixon.
I mean, her understanding of Nixon was not really wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of
Fair.
Richard Nixon. Although, honestly, the stuff he got in trouble for is stuff
Oh
that
my
Bill
gosh.
Clinton laughed about over his morning coffee.
Oh yeah.
But we don't do politics here. That's my other podcast.
I say that there's because last few decades, couple few decades have been
Oh yeah,
like
special. And
turns out Nixon's biggest problem was actually getting caught.
yeah, and today even getting caught doesn't guarantee anything.
Yep.
But
So yeah, cyberpunk dystopia. Where are we going with that? Just that we are indeed in one.
I think so.
Uh,
I think Futurama may have actually been an optimistic look at it.
we don't. Even, I feel betrayed. We don't have cool fashion. We don't have
Flying
uh,
cars. Thanks, Back
flying
to the Future.
cars. Yeah.
We don't have a Mr. Fusion that you can feed some
Right?
household garbage into and power your car or house.
Like seriously, that's the future I wanted, man.
I mean, seriously, when University of Utah announced that they had figured out cold fusion back in 1998, I was excited for about 5 seconds till realized they were full of shit.
Yeah. Well, if they'd actually
Still,
figured out cold
everybody,
fusion, things would have happened
yeah,
differently.
still everybody, the future's nuclear, and if you disagree, shut the fuck up because you're wrong.
It's the most sustainable energy source.
Yeah, I won't even brook discussion of it anymore.
Now, when every small town in America has a shipping container sized nuclear reactor that cannot melt down, we will be a couple steps farther along.
Yes, please give me modular pebble bed reactors.
Yes.
And then and then when the aliens come, we can power a 180-foot long, well, not technically a tank, more of a slightly armored gun system with a
Okay.
250-foot long barrel of a 16-inch gun to fire antimatter charges at aliens because John Ringo's fucking insane.
I
I
mean,
I want a world where the Shiva gun is actually possible. I don't necessarily want the world where it's necessary
right.
because the
But just where it's
Posling were
possible.
holy fuck bad.
Yeah,
But
that's yeah.
shit.
I
Okay, I have to remember the title of the book now. Is that Hell's
which
Fair?
one? No, that was not Hell's Fair. That was Gust Front was I think the first one.
Gust Front was
No,
first.
was it
No,
Gust Front the first
Him
one?
Before Battle, Gust Front, When the Devil
Yes,
Dances,
yes.
and then yeah, Hell's Fair.
Oh, was it Hell's Fair? Okay, I thought Hell's Fair was.
Let me double check. Yeah, because When the Devil Dances was number 3. Come on, just show me the freaking series. God, Amazon, you suck. Okay, here we go. Yeah, Him Before Battle, Gust Front,
Right.
When the Devil Dances, Hell's Fair.
Okay.
And then number 5 is the book that became non-canon that nobody talks about and Mike Williamson's still salty about. The Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
universe went a very different direction.
I think he has a right to be a little salty about that one.
I think so. But I
That
love
said,
Mike.
I do like the other ways. Yeah, I've man, he is mellowed. It's crazy.
That's the crazy part is Mike actually has mellowed a lot in the last decade.
Yeah.
And then you have the Callie's War bit from Julie
Hmm.
Cochrane, who she went off the deep end.
Oh.
Oh yeah, she went ape shit across social media about 4 years ago.
Huh.
And
I missed that.
yeah,
I'm
it's
so bad at keeping up on things.
dude. I only happened to, and it was just like it was not long after James died, which I know they'd been divorced for a long time, but like she
Hmm.
lost a grip on things, I think. And then you have the
Actors have a
trilogy that Kratman
distressing
did,
tendency to yes, Watch on the
which
Rhine, and then
Yellow Eyes, and then
Yellow
the
Eyes and the
Teloriad,
Teloriad.
which took things in a direction I did not expect, especially from Kratman.
it
Converting the gigantic carnivorous alien eating machines to Catholicism,
I mean, okay,
I
I'm on
did
board.
not see that coming at all, and he pulled it off masterfully.
I mean, it's the only way you're going to get the was it the Techno Pope? Was
Yeah,
that the crocodile Pope from that
the Space
Futurama?
Pope. That's the
Space
Space
Pope,
Pope.
yeah, Space Pope.
The Space
Yeah,
Pope and the Robot Devil.
there you go.
Oh, our sidebars are fantastic.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and then I found
Uh,
recently that Ringo wrote another like 3 or 4 books in that series and started actually bringing it towards conclusion, which
yeah,
I didn't know that John Ringo actually ever tried to complete a series. I thought he just wrote until he got bored with it and then never touched it again.
John's a character and a half.
And then some.
I admire the heck out of the guy
I
in a lot
love
of
him.
ways. Yeah, he's delightful. So many of those guys have a distinct tendency to suck the air out of the room. Uh, but
Well, I mean, Ian does that
Ian does that, Larry
in the
does
same
that,
way.
John does that. Kratman can, but often chooses not to. Mike does
Kratman,
that.
yeah,
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 it
but I substituted a lot of children's programming because it was so awful with let's
right.
watch Futurama.
That's legit, man. And for the record, Bluey is actually quite good. I don't have a problem with my kids watching Bluey, um,
Yeah,
but there's just not much else good.
I think there are 3 episodes of Futurama that made me cry.
That's yeah,
And the first one being the story of Fry's dog Seymour,
yes,
which ironically, my super anxious barky dog, his actual name is Seymour Asses
right,
from that episode.
yeah,
And then my obnoxious pup is Lord Nibbler.
yes,
And my disdainful quiet one would have been Leela, except my brother-in-law named his daughter Leela.
yeah,
So we could not give the dog the same name as the niece. So she became Lilo. But yeah, all 3 of our
fair.
dogs were intended to be named from Futurama, which I don't know what that says about me, but I was like, if I sit and watch TV with my kids, I'm gonna watch something that doesn't make me want to stab myself.
Futurama is a shockingly good series.
It honestly is. There's some good storytelling, and it actually did open up the opportunities for a lot of meaningful conversations with my kids.
Hmm.
Which again, people may listen to this and be like, "Dude, you've got a few screws." Yeah, well, no shit, I've got a few screws loose.
Uh,
Um,
that's why
that's
we're
why
here in the first
that's why
place.
we're unhinged.
Yes.
But
Hinges are typically well screwed down.
well, at least if they're functioning.
Yeah,
And ours definitely are not. But at the same time, I think that we are providing something of value because too many people who go on the internet to talk about parenting and the experience thereof and how to do it well, they are so polished. A lot of them are psychologists.
mm,
They're from some other background that is very very white collar and is very kind of image focused and very polished and presents this idealized thing as if it's the simplest thing in the world, and that's not reality.
yeah, that's not been my experience.
And I was talking about this with my mother-in-law, and we spent the entire day we're picking out appliances and finishes and flooring and cabinets and stuff for their house that's getting built.
Yeah,
And when we stopped for lunch, she was like, "No, what you're doing there is actually important because you're taking the polished veneer off, and you're talking about how things really are." Which I didn't know that she'd been watching or listening. Makes me a little self conscious.
oh no, my parents pay attention at least somewhat.
They disapprove. They disapprove of my mouth, but that's okay.
I mean, kind of.
Eh, you know, I've received far worse criticisms in my time, and frankly, I kind of grew up on job sites and in auto shops, and
Yeah, that. Mm-hmm.
And I grew and I grew a great disdain for the polished veneer of a lot of things, to where I'm just not interested in perpetuating it most of the time. It's
That's
like, no,
fair.
that's not life. Parenting is messy. Being a dad in this age, and having some sense of introspection, of being able to clearly see everywhere that you fall short every day, there is nothing easy about that.
Yeah.
Because if any of us who have that bent towards introspection, we tend to feel like we're doing a pretty shitty job all the time. The objective measures say, no, you're actually doing pretty damn well. But we can see every time we
We're
fall
well
short
in
of
it.
what we're capable of.
Hmm.
And there's a whole lot there of, yeah, I know that my brain is speaking crazy talk to me. I still feel like a piece of shit. And that's the reality.
Yeah.
That's reality. At least for us. And there are a lot of guys out there who are, trying to work the career and advance and materially provide, while also trying to be present and involved fathers, while
Yeah.
also, who are also trying to maintain a marriage on what little energy they have left, after trying to be intentional about interacting with their kids and working and doing things that feed the creative juices. It's exhausting.
Oh, absolutely.
It is completely exhausting. And when you can see everywhere that you fall short in any given day, yeah, you may actually be doing pretty damn well, but it doesn't feel
Hmm.
like it. It does not feel like it. And just to hear that, yeah, a lot of it is kind of shitty. And
Yeah.
the person who's meanest to me is me. Realizing that, oh, I'm not the only person who feels that way.
Right.
I think that in and of itself is freeing. And then seeing, I think we're trying to model how you go from, okay, this is where I'm at in my head. This is how I harness that and push forward. This is
Yeah.
how I'm trying to learn and do better at that. This is how I'm trying to learn and do better at this.
Yes.
And that ultimately the most meaningful thing is the fact that you are trying to do better. And most days you are succeeding in at least some small way. Because I can tell you, 5 years ago, if I'd found out that my kid was submitting pieces that was submitting a document with a single X on it as his homework and telling me he did his homework, I would have had a fucking come apart.
Yeah.
5 years
That's yeah.
ago, I would have had a come apart. I would have been very visibly angry and in that kid's face. I'd have made him feel like shit. And I am not proud of that.
Yeah.
Because you know what? My older kids, I did do that too.
Mm.
Sometimes, not all the time. I was trying then, but a lot of times I failed.
Oh yeah.
And
No. We,
I'm not proud of that. 5 years later, I'm doing a hell of a lot better. And it kind of sucks for my kids who are almost adults,
yeah.
because it took me until they were into adolescence before I really started figuring any of this out, and learning that, hey, my emotions, my feelings are my problem, not theirs.
Right.
And instead endeavoring to understand where they're at so that I can help them. Fortunately, I figured it out while they were still in the house. And I've been
Yeah.
able to talk to them, and I've been able to apologize and say, you know what, I did not do this well for a long time, and I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that you had to deal with so much more of the asshole version of me than your little brothers do. I make up for it. I think the worst thing I think the worst thing I ever said or did to one of my kids is my oldest when she was like 4 or 5, and she's doing that jabbering stream of conscious thing. And I think that day I had worked like 36 hours straight because I had an apartment that I found out had to be painted overnight for people to move in the morning. So I worked like 36 hours straight, came home, ate something, sat down, and was like, I'm going to play a game. I am so stressed out right now. And she's sitting here, Dad, because she's excited. I'm home. She's telling me about all these things. I turned her, I was like, look, I don't care.
Mm.
At that moment, I really didn't, because I am so exhausted and strung out.
Yeah.
I was like a gram and a half of caffeine into 36 hours and just completely done. I was well past 0 spoons. I had
Right.
nothing left to give.
Yeah.
In that sense, it's understandable, but at the same time, my kid is just excited that I'm home and is telling me all these things. I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think I think that was actually worse than yelling at her. I think that was worse than I think that was worse than going and spanking her for being
Apathy.
disobedient.
The opposite of love is apathy.
Yeah, and that haunts me to this day.
That's fair.
And that lurks in the back of my mind. I'm never going to not care.
Right.
I can now say, hey, I really don't have the energy to participate in this conversation right now.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I am exhausted and strung out. Can you show me this tomorrow? Which has some validity. Kid may
Yeah.
still be disappointed about it, but it's
Sure.
not. Look, I don't care about your fucking Pokemon.
Right.
I don't care about what you just built in Minecraft. I mean, the fact is, I do because it's important to them.
Yeah.
I still think Minecraft is dumb. I don't get it. But you know what? My kid. Look at this. Look at this house I built. I'm going to go over and I'm going to look at the house and I'm going to give honest feedback about what is cool that they did.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand the motivation behind it. I don't understand why we're playing a fake 8-bit game. But they're excited about it and they're sharing it with me. By God, I'm going to listen. I'm not making that mistake again.
Yeah.
And that's the honest truth that we're trying to bring to people is we all kind of suck. There are things that we struggle a lot of them, as dads of our vintage, a lot of them are pretty common. A lot of us are struggling with a lot of the same things. We're trying to break the same cycles.
Yep.
But bringing that unvarnished and the hey, I fucked this up, or sometimes I fucked it up for years before I pulled my head out. I think there's value in that and validating, hey guys, you're not alone on this.
Absolutely.
And coming from I've been doing this for a long time, I have figured out some things that work, and I have figured
Yep.
and I have figured out these are the important things. Learning to self-regulate, learning the discipline to manage your own emotions, and to understand that when your kids are being little shits, it's not malicious. They're just people with developing brains, oftentimes with feelings bigger than they know how to contain.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you can be frustrated, but there actually isn't a reason to be angry. But it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of conditioning to internalize that and not get angry.
Yep. And frankly, it takes taking care of yourself.
It does.
It's so easy to get angry when you're short on sleep and haven't eaten well and you're not exercising and
You're running on a
you
gram and a half of caffeine and hatred for all mankind.
yeah, as a random non-specific example.
Yes. I mean, hell, I have a shirt somewhere in my dresser that says "fueled by caffeine and hate."
Yes.
It's not entirely wrong.
Yeah.
Although I would say that positive motivations regarding building a world for my kids and building
Hmm.
kids for the world are much more of a drive now than general disdain for all the people online and across the world.
Yeah, fair.
But that's taken time and that has taken a lot of effort on my part. And so, Dave, I've talked way too much this time.
Dude, you got on a bit of a tear about something that is both significant and significant to you.
Yeah, hopefully it's useful for somebody.
I have a feeling it will be. Um, as far as making a world for our kids goes,
I don't
everything
know,
we
clean
do,
up your own litter,
yeah,
figuratively and literally.
more figuratively than, I mean, yeah, yeah, get yourself together.
And it's
Help them
okay to
get
fuck up.
themselves together. Yeah,
Right? And
but
when you do,
they're,
you take accountability for it, you own up to it, and you do better. Go forth and
yeah,
make new mistakes.
yes, new and more interesting mistakes.
I could do with less interesting sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. We're hoping for a lot less interesting for a while.
Yeah, you've got. You know what? It's appropriate given that the Navy taught you Mandarin. You have fully internalized the blessing and curse of may you live in
Oh,
interesting
more than interesting
times.
sometimes. Yeah.
I can't wait for you guys to be back in your own fucking house.
Tell me about it. Dude, we ordered cabinets this week. We've, they're going to show up. We're probably doing the install, so that'll be fun. Um,
Okay. You don't have access to a table saw, do you?
yeah, I do. I've got a table saw.
French cleats.
Yeah, French cleats are
Um,
definitely an option.
my there's well, I'll send you a link to something else. Um, depends on how the cabinets are being installed, but I actually for like hanging upper cabinets. I
Yeah,
love installing an uninterrupted French cleat. You take the oscillating multi-tool and then cut out the spots where the edges of the cabinets are going to go against the wall.
sure.
So then you just hang them. You run a couple screws into your from the back into that cleat on the wall, and you're secure.
Yeah.
And actually, when I do mine, I'm gonna pre-build the face frames as opposed to putting up all the boxes and then building a unitized face frame.
Right.
And I'm going to use. I've got a company that makes a whole bunch of different connectors. These are a plastic biscuit connector. They glue.
Okay.
You use a biscuit joiner to cut the slot.
Sure.
You glue that in on both sides, and then when you slide them together, those lock and pull those face frames together
Oh, that's nice.
at top and bottom, and each pair is like a buck 80.
Oh, that's not bad.
So you can set it on the French cleat, and if you've cut your cleats, so you've got a little room, you can set it on there, slide it, they lock
Hmm.
together, then you screw them down. Depends on how the cabinets are being built. But that could be useful as long as you have a decent biscuit joiner. Um, I've got to get a better one. Somebody gave me one from Grizzly. It's a piece of shit.
That's interesting. Grizzly's usually pretty good.
Grizzly can be hit or miss. A lot of their handheld power tools I've found are kind of crappy.
Okay.
They're bigger. They're bigger floor standing ones tend to be pretty decent as long as you're willing to tune them and are willing to say, hey, um, this is out of spec.
Right.
And they'll usually make it right, is my understanding.
Well, that's a good deal.
But yeah, I can send you that stuff later if you want,
Sweet.
if it would be helpful at all.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you're getting prefab cabinets that already have the face frames, then that can make sure that they're lined up
Yeah.
and you don't have any weird misalignments because your wall's definitely not 100% plumb and flat.
Oh, I guarantee it.
Yeah. And but yeah, there's
Yeah.
we've kind of gone all over the place, but yeah, we live in the future and it's weird.
Yeah, and it's going to get more weird before things mellow.
Yeah.
That's
We used
that's pretty clear.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is we used to think that lack of access to information was what made people dumb.
No, turns out
Turns out the more information they have access to, the dumber they get.
yeah, it's human issues.
Yeah,
Has nothing to do with the information.
but Dave, do you have some closing thoughts for us? I think it's time for us to go to bed.
Our job is to help our children learn how to be functional adults. That means they need to be able to communicate. They need to be able to do things like their own taxes, or at least find somebody they can trust to do their own taxes. They need to be able to do laundry. Like there's all the myriad things that an adult does all the time and doesn't think about because they've had a couple or a few decades of experience doing that.
Yep,
That's what we have to teach them.
we have to teach
And
them
how
how to regulate themselves.
to regulate themselves, and how to relate to another person, and how to fight with a partner,
Yeah,
and get better for
yeah.
it.
How to deal with conflict in a productive manner.
Yeah. And that's
Because
tough.
I mean
How
that's going to happen in romantic relationships. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen with people at work.
Mhm.
You're never going to get along with everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, productive. Turning conflict into something productive, and how to turn mistakes into learning opportunities.
It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, it's simple. It's simple in theory. In
Mhm.
practice, it requires a lot of effort, and it requires a lot of doing it wrong.
And a lot of self-regulation.
Yeah, but yeah, we're not trying to raise obedient children. We're
There are
trying to
days.
raise well. There are days that would be a nice bonus,
Yeah.
but we're trying to raise them to where they can go out on their own and be functional and care for themselves and be able to get by without us,
Yep.
which is that's one of the other things that really motivated me to start unfucking myself was, my life expectancy maxed out about 17 years ago. We're now 22 years post liver transplant. They said I'd be lucky if I got 5.
Dang, dude.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have now all but one of the hepatologists who was on the liver transplant team when I was transplanted have retired, and he's retiring later this year.
Dang.
These guys were in the prime of their careers when they did me.
Yeah.
Now they're in their 70s. They've all retired. And here I am, still functioning way better than anybody expected. Better than I expected. But,
So
that's always
damned by
been one of
faint
those
praise.
things in the back of my head is I
Mm-hmm.
could die in 2 weeks. I catch a nasty pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
I catch, something antibiotic resistant. I'm dead in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Severely suppressed immune system.
Yeah.
And what position would I be leaving my kids in to continue on and be successful without me guiding them?
Oh yeah. Well, and it's just a little closer for you. Literally, everyone can die.
One of the most dangerous things you do every day is drive more than 3 miles.
Yeah.
All you need is some crackhead running from the cops, or to fall asleep on the approach to a bridge,
There you go.
or have somebody with a fake CDL drift a 100,000-pound semi into you.
Mm.
All kinds of things.
Yep.
But that's our job. Set up our help is to help our kids grow to the point that they don't need us, and hopefully, when they no longer need us, we've done well enough that they still want to associate with us. I mean, hell, if they're just coming home to eat my cooking, I'll take that.
Good enough.
But if they actually value being around me and being able to talk to me, that's even better.
Yeah.
And they aren't really going to want to do that if you're constantly an asshole who motivates them by fear.
It's true.
We're building a future for them. Don't be the shitty voice inside their head.
Yeah. Let them do that all on their own.
I
They
mean,
don't need our help.
if they're like us, they really don't need the help.
Yeah.
They could actually do with somebody teaching them how to counter that voice when they're adolescents instead of starting to figure that out in their 30s and 40s.
Right?
Yeah, imagine that. But yeah, let's put this one to bed. I'm tired.
On that.
I was up till 3 editing last night. Was out all day, and I'm going to be out all day tomorrow. And hopefully, doesn't seem the Air Force has screwed up your connection this time. So this should be fairly simple to edit together and get posted.
Outstanding.
Please, God, please, electron gods, whatever you are.
You tried appeasing the machine spirit.
I'm just about ready to start sprinkling some chicken blood on either probably not my PC. My PC has not been the problem, but maybe we should start sprinkling some sacrificed chicken blood on our routers.
There you go.
Who knows? So, if
All right.
If you guys find something valuable in what we're doing and what we're sharing, please subscribe. We'd like to get to the point where we can also be live streaming on Facebook and Instagram and reach more people. And I'd really like to get this thing to the point where it pays for itself.
Yes.
That would actually be really fantastic. But thank you for joining us, and we will catch you guys next week, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. All right, that is it for tonight's episode. Thank you for joining us. Quick reminder, all opinions expressed here are solely those of the individual speakers, hosts, and guests alike, and do not represent the views of any affiliated person, organization, company, sponsor, or other entity. This show is provided for entertainment purposes only. Nothing discussed is professional advice of any kind. Always consult a qualified professional and use your own best judgment before acting on anything we've talked about. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next episode.